Hi, we're back with another Toyota RAV4 Prime video. In this case, we are actually driving around so you can get the experience and my feedback from the actual driving. So there's two major things. When you're braking, it regenerates. So depending on what you set it to, if you've got it in eco mode, or if you put it in standard, or if you put it in sports, there's a different feel to it. So when you're braking, I've got people behind me, so I'm not going to aggressively brake right now. But if you were to put it in sports mode, the second you let go of the gas pedal, you will find that it regenerates very aggressively, meaning that it slows down quite a bit, quite quickly. And in fact, so we're driving right now, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to let go of the gas. So this is deceleration. So it's a bit more aggressive, I guess, than a typical gasoline engine would. So in this case, let me put this into sports mode, and I'm going to now let go of the gas again, and it really slows down much faster. So I'm going to put it back to the eco mode. So the driving, I mean, one of the things with this car is you do have an electric seat, so all the settings are electric on the driver's side. All the rest of the seats, though, are manual, so that's a bit of a letdown from my point of view. I think for the kind of price that they're asking for these, you should have that. And if you're looking at some of their other models, like the BZ4X, apparently has all manual seats as well. So I get it. I guess they wanted you to not use up all of your power on all these gadgets. At least it's the only reason I could think of, that or them strictly trying to keep the cost down. So driving really, if you're going to use it the way it comes, meaning that you just get in the car and go, what it does is it goes and depletes the battery. So it will use up the entire battery. So when you've got ideal temperatures, so meaning that it's not excessively cold and you're driving around, you're going to be getting, again, 70 kilometers is probably on the very high end. I've gotten all the way up to 81, as I've mentioned in other videos. That's very exceptional, and I like to kid around you. You're going downhill with the wind, and there's someone in the back pushing you at that point in order to get those types of more extreme ranges out of the EV mode. So again, when you just start driving, if you don't touch anything, it just uses the battery, and there's really no intelligence to it, past what you've set it to, whether it's in eco mode or sports. So one of the tricks, or one of the things I like to do, is as soon as I'm going at higher speeds, and thus at higher speeds you're actually consuming a lot more power more quickly, so what you can do is then go into a gas mode. So at that point you're in HV mode, and as soon as the combustion engine kicks in, then obviously it stops consuming power, keeping your range. So another thing about this is when you are in HV mode, it still uses up a bit of battery. Let's say you were to re-accelerate, it will do that. If you put on the AC, or if you put on the heating as well, you will notice that it will reduce your range. And we're going to wait for all the traffic to pass, and we're going to accelerate and see how quickly that goes. So here goes. And this is in eco mode, so as you can tell, it's really fast. Imagine in sports mode. So the idea is that when you are in HV mode, it will also engage the electric motors to get additional, torque and so forth out of it if you're trying to accelerate quickly. And of course, in EV mode, actually, that's pretty quick as well. So I've never had a problem in taking off in EV mode, even Eco, Standard, or Sport. Obviously, you get more kick from the Sport, but if you really want to get all 302 horsepower, you've got to have both the normal gas engine and the EV in combination in order to get that horsepower. So acceleration is great. Deceleration is good as well. It saves on brakes and so forth. The brakes work well. One of the little tricks for those of you who may be living in northern climates and who may be encountering rust on the brakes, since there is deceleration or regeneration, in this case is what it's using it, what it's doing, what you might want to do is occasionally put it in neutral and then brake. That will actually make sure that you are engaging the brakes. It'll keep your disc pads cleaner. It'll basically prevent some rust from building. The very first oil change that I did on this car, we noticed there was a lot of rust. Again, because I was using it mainly in EV mode, there was very little braking happening, especially if you're driving a lot on open roads with little traffic, so there's little stop and go. Then you're hardly braking at all, and of course over time, if you don't really brake well, you get that little layer of rust that builds. So I've spoken about the seats, the acceleration, and so forth. The maintenance on these is pretty straightforward, since I've mentioned oil changes. They do recommend you changing your oil. Of course, it becomes sort of counterintuitive, because if you are driving it mainly in EV mode, and why wouldn't you? I mean, we're in EV mode right now. It's very quiet, it's pleasant, it's very responsive. When you press on the accelerator, it goes. The point is if you keep driving it in EV mode, at the end of the day, you have this feeling that you're not you're not using the gas. And if you go for long periods of time, in the back of your mind, you're going to start to think, well, why should I change the oil? And if you look at the oil, it probably looks pretty pristine. Over time, like any car, if you have a car that doesn't get used, traditional gas car, then what will happen is you've got the different temperatures, when it goes from cold to hot and so forth, that will cause some humidity in the oil, which is why they tell you, even if, normal cars, they tell you that, so many miles or kilometers change your oil, or after a certain period of time, whether it be 6 months or a year. So the point is you do want to change the oil regardless of whether or not you're using your gas engine or not, for that reason. Because the last thing you want is a lot of condensation, and it might, precipitate things from, harm things or rust things or do various things to the engine that is not great. So that is why they recommend this. So far, the last oil change, again, when it comes out, it is not very dirty compared to what you'd expect, just because I'm using mainly EV mode while I drive. All right, let's talk a little bit about the controls and overall. Like most Toyotas, I mean, it's not a Prime specific feature, but everything is at your fingertips. And of course, that's the whole point with a modern car. So you've got a lot of the controls on the steering wheel. You can control both the audio, and you can also, apart from the regular things like the flashers and whatnot, but everything is within reach. The knobs for the temperature control are really nice. They've got a lot of rubber. They've textured it to be like rubber. I'm not sure what this is made of exactly, but they're nice and easy to use. I actually wish that those had been for the radio as opposed to the temperature, since you most likely set the temperature to, within a degree or so of what you like, and it stays like that. It's pretty straightforward. So the radio seems to me a little disconnected in the sense that it seems like it's almost an iPad that they glued on to the top of it. It's not the prettiest thing that they could have come up with, but it is functional. It is where it needs to be from a visibility point of view and from a reach point of view. You can do both quite easily. And as you're driving, I mean, you're not distracted by the technology itself. Everything's very well laid out. The steering wheel does not get in your field of vision for any of the components or any of the display settings. And even going through the different things, most people will set it to what they like to see in the center. For example, I like to see the range, and it shows me, my consumption and so forth, and that's really what I stick to. You can also see some of this information on the center console, which is, I guess most people will have things like the radio settings there, but it does show you both your range, it shows you the latest fuel consumption, and I mean, the Prime really is nice to drive. It's comfortable for long journeys. As you may have seen, or if you don't know, I did a video where we actually drove this all the way to Houston, Texas from Montreal, so 6,000 kilometers, 4,000 miles, so it's quite the distance, and we have no complaints. So thank you for joining me today on my little ride. I'm Bob Pellerin, CTOBOB. I hope you've enjoyed this video. Leave some comments below. You can also reach us at www.ctobob.com, and we'll see you in the next video. Thanks so much for watching.